Hi guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to The Wandering Reader. Today I've got a bit of a different video that I'm putting up on my channel. So I'm calling this a weekend reads video. I've been thinking about doing sort of Friday reads or Saturday reads for a while now. So I thought I would try it out today. Just because I quite like the format of it on other people's channels, just kind of getting that opportunity to catch up with you about what I've read and what I'm going to be reading for the rest of the weekend. And I have been MIA on YouTube for a couple of weeks just because I've been ill, so I've had a bit of a cold. You can probably still hear it in my voice a little bit. I'm not 100% better. Had a couple of days off of work last week, but I can't completely shift it at the moment. I don't really know why. I did have my flu jab last Friday, and I don't know whether me getting over it has taken longer because I had that flu jab. So yeah, so I thought I'd do a bit of a catch-up video, just kind of letting you know where I am with my reading at the moment, so that I can kind of go on from there in terms of, you know, making new videos and stuff like that. So I have got a video uploaded to my channel that I haven't released. So I filmed it a couple of weekends ago. It was like a craft update video, and I just didn't really feel in the right frame of mind to release it, put a thumbnail on it, that kind of thing. So it's just sat there for a little while. So I'm going to release that this week. It's out of date now by a couple of weeks, but I mean, when I say out of date, it's not going to be, you know, I don't know, like it's not anything too bad. It'll be fine. So yeah, just updating you on my craft projects and stuff like that. So that should be coming out later this week for you to have a little look at. Yeah, and in the meantime, like I said, I'm going to update you on what I've read so far in November actually, and then what I'm planning on reading this weekend. I'm hoping to not do an awful lot of editing in this video, so I'm just gonna keep going and see how it goes. I kind of feel like I've been on BookTube long enough now that I'm confident enough in front of a camera to just kind of run with mistakes that I make or whatever it might be, but I may have to do a little bit of editing because, you know, you could have the odd sneeze and things like that, and I'm sure you guys don't really want to watch that sort of thing. So let's jump into what I've been reading. So the first thing that I finished in November was an audiobook, and I listened to The Help by Kathryn and this was narrated by a few different people. I think there were 4 different narrators, one of which was Octavia Spencer, so that was really nice to hear her voice in there. This is a book that I have read before, so I read it in print format, oh, I want to say a good 5 years ago now or something like that, and I downloaded the audiobook just because I thought I've been thinking about sort of rereading some of my favourites for a while and just sort of seeing how I feel about them again. And I did a similar thing with Wild last month, so I reread Wild by Cheryl Strayed on audiobook and really enjoyed it. So I downloaded The Help, and I listened to that and I absolutely loved it. The audiobook is fantastic, so if you are on the fence about reading the book, or if you haven't read it before and you've got a spare Audible credit, or you might be able to get it through your local library audiobook service or something like that, then I would definitely recommend it. If you're not aware of what the story is about, it features features a host of characters, and you know, as I'm sitting here, I cannot remember any of the characters' names. My God. I'm going to do a bit of Goodreads investigating. I'm so terrible when it comes to my memory skills. So, okay, I'm going to start reading this, and then Aibileen, Millie and... Okay, it's come back to me now. Okay, so it focuses around some women who are maids to white families in the South of America in the I think is it the 1950s or the 1960s? The 1960s. It's set in 1962 in Mississippi. So you're following 2 particular maids. One's called Aibileen and the other one's called Minnie, and the 2 of them are friends. and they both serve different white families, and they are black. And then we're also following a young woman who's in her early 20s called Skeeter. She's just graduated from university. She really wants to get a job as a writer, so as a journalist or something like that. So she ends up getting a job on the local newspaper running the cleaning column. So in order to answer some of the questions that people have written in with, she goes and speaks to Aibileen about, you know, what would you do in this situation kind of thing. And that opens up a whole dynamic between them, where she decides that she is going to write a book about the experiences of black maids in Mississippi at this particular time, and their experience with white families and things like that. And that's what the story centres around. It's laugh out loud funny at lots of different moments, but it's also incredibly sad and incredibly moving. So you kind of going from one end of the spectrum to the other in terms of your emotions. But it's just so engrossing, and I feel like it's a really important book as well. There is a movie adaptation which I watched a few years ago, and I really enjoyed the movie adaptation too, so I would definitely recommend checking that out. I gave the book 5 stars when I originally read it, although I don't think I was on Goodreads. But it's one of my favourites anyway, so clearly it should be a 5-star book. And I gave it 5 stars again this time when I listened to it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So that's the first book that I read in November. And then, of course, it's non-fiction November, so I picked up my first non-fiction book, and I read The Secret Life of Cows, and this is by Rosamund Young. And this is just a really short, it's sort of like a 150-page book. Not even that really. And it's basically Rosamund Young, her and her family own a farm where they have a herd of cows, and it's basically her just relaying lots of stories about what her cows have done, and, you know, little anecdotes about them and things like that, and sort of almost like dispelling some of the myths about cows as well in here. So they're just really short little chapters, sort of like 1 or 2 pages, 3 at the very most, just about different things to do with her cows. So you know, the heading that we've got here is unusual behaviour needs investigating, mothers and daughters, a little bit of it about ingenuity, and just little things like that. What was this one called? Different Kinds of Mooing. And I just found myself really enjoying this. I learnt a lot about cows in here that I didn't know before. It's nothing groundbreaking, and it's nothing that you know, that's going to really pack a punch or anything like that. It's not really that kind of book. But I just found myself really enthralled by it. So I would definitely say that if you're looking for sort of like a nature non-fiction book, this would definitely be something that I'd recommend picking up. It's quite short, like I said, it won't take you that long to get through. And I think I gave that something like 4 stars or 3.5 stars or something like that. So I really enjoyed that one. And then I'm just checking my phone to make sure I'm telling you everything along the right lines. Yeah, then I finished listening to a second audiobook this month. And I got this one from my library. It's Harry Potter, A History of Magic, and this is narrated by Natalie Dormer. And I think a lot of us know about this audiobook being released. It's been released, I think, in the last month or so. And I at the time that they were kind of talking about it being released, the fact that they had Natalie Dormer as a narrator on it, I was personally really excited by it. And I'd been to the exhibition in the British Library. It must have been very early on I think it was around February this year. It was at the tail end of the exhibition, and I really loved the exhibition. I bought the books from it and things like that, but just kind of hadn't got around to flicking through them. And then I noticed that my library had got a copy of the audiobook, so I put myself in the queue for it, and that came in at the beginning of November. Yeah, it must have done, or the end of October, something like that. So I listened to it. Natalie Dormer did a great job of narrating. I've really liked listening to her voice, but it was also not narrated by, it had lots of different snippets from lots of different experts, both at the British Library and at the New York Historical Society, and plus you had some snippets from Stephen Fry and Jim Dale, who are the British and the American audiobook narrators of the Harry Potter series, and also from Jim Kay, who is illustrating the Harry Potter books. So I think he's currently doing the Goblet of Fire one. And it was really, really interesting. There was a lot of stuff in there that I'd seen in the exhibition, but the thing is, when you go to an exhibition, A, there's not like an infinite amount of time that you can spend there, and B, there's just so much to see, so your senses are kind of overwhelmed by lots of different things, lots of things to take on board and things like that. And so this book was a nice opportunity to kind of go back over some of those things that I had seen in there and perhaps not paid as much attention to or had forgotten about. And so, you know, it was lovely to hear about those again, but it also went into lots of other detail about lots and lots of different things. And what I loved most about it is that you got a bit of an insight into different things to do with the Harry Potter world. So for example, Jim Kay talked a lot about how he, like the creative process through, my camera is about to switch clips, so I'm going to sort that out now. Okay, so saying that Jim Kay talked a lot about the creative process of exactly what he does when he makes these illustrations, when he does these illustrations. And the way that he was describing it and talking about exactly what goes into it and the research that he does and the time that it takes, I just didn't really realise the hard work that goes into producing those particular books. It blew me away. We also heard from the woman who illustrated Fantastic Beasts. I think it's Olivia. I can't remember, she's got a double-barreled surname, I'm sure you know who I mean, but she talked a little bit in there, but Jim Kay an awful lot more. And also Stephen Fry and Jim Dale talked a lot about you know, how they decided to voice characters and things like that. And then you got little snippets about like how the books were published and things like that. And if you're a Harry Potter fan, this is something that you must, I think, listen to. It's nice to have the books. I've got the books downstairs and I probably will flick through them at different points in my life. But I think the audiobook was really, really engrossing. Each chapter was about 20 minutes long, or between 20 and 40 minutes, I would say, long. So they're in bite-sized enough chunks for you to kind of be engrossed in that particular topic and then move on from it for a bit. Yeah, I absolutely adores it, and I gave that one 5 stars. Would definitely recommend it. So like I said, if you're a Harry Potter fan, you really do need to listen to this, so definitely one I'd recommend. And then just checking my phone, I finished an ebook on my Kindle called The Perfect Match by Kristen Higgins, and this is the second book in the Blue Heron series, and I read the first book earlier on in the summer and really enjoyed it. So I spent about £3 or £4 downloading the second book in the series, which is quite unusual for me. If I'm thinking about what I do with my Kindle buying wise, I tend to not buy things that are more than 99p, so I'm a sucker for the monthly deals that are on Kindle. Like they had a big Black Friday deal recently that I downloaded some books for. Yeah, because I don't really like buying books that are more expensive than that. But I spent £3 or £4 on this one and I was really disappointed. This tells the story of, I can't even remember their names, but then that's not necessarily based on the quality of the book, as you know, because I'd forgotten the names of the help, and that's one of my favourite books. Honor and Tom. Okay, so it tells the story of Honor, and she's the sister of Faith, and Faith was the character that we followed in the first book. And Honor is 35. She feels like the clock is ticking on her getting married and having a baby, and in fact the opening scene of the book is her having a smear and the doctor telling her that if you don't have a baby soon, your eggs is going to start, you know, losing their quality, as it were, which I kind of, they know each other, so the relationship between patient and doctor is obviously going to be a little bit different, but I did find that a little bit strange. But then the weirdness carried on from there. So Honor decides that she needs to kind of up the ante on her kind of marriage prospects, and she ends up asking somebody, her best friend, who she's on and off had a physical relationship with for a while, to marry her. He rejects her, and then he goes and gets with her best friend very, very quickly. So there's that, and then she decides that she's gonna, you know, go on online dating and things like that, and she gets matched up by her grandmother with this guy from the UK called Tom Barlow, who's looking for a green card basically, and the two of them decide that they're going to get married so that he can have this green card. He's got some sort of a stepson kind of that he needs to stay in the US for, and he's not being allowed to at the moment. The writing was dreadful. It was so cliche, so poorly written, just the sort of thing where it left nothing up to the reader's imagination. So a good writer will have a sentence, and there will be something implied in the sentence that the reader obviously has to then work out, and so that thought comes into the reader's head, but it's not overtly written down on the page. What she would do, what Kristen Higgins would do, is write a sentence, you'd see what the implication was, and then she'd put the implication in the second sentence. And I just found myself thinking, well, what, you're not leaving anything for your reader to do. There's no sort of process in that sort of thing, and I found that really frustrating. The characters were so up and down in terms of what to expect from them, you know, and they were, especially Tom, he was a massive caricature. You know, he was a drinker, and they played on his Britishness, and I just kind of felt at moments like there were some massive issues to do with, I don't know, just like the way that, I can't even remember off the top of my head, but there were lots of issues to do with, you know, the way that women are spoken to, and the way that, I don't know, like foreigners are brought into a community, and I just didn't like the way that that was approached at all. I should have really DNF'd it, but because I'd spent like £3 or £4 on it, I was thinking, no, I'm going to power through. I've spent money on this book. It wasn't until 80% of the way through, I would say, when I was kind of flicking through the pages and really quickly, and actually kind of semi-invested in what was going on in their relationship. But I would not recommend this book. I gave it 2 stars. I'm kind of sad because it's like it was a completely different writer from the first book. The writing style was completely different. It felt rushed, it felt unedited, and I just found it completely awful. So I wouldn't recommend that at all. Gave it 2 stars, and I will really have to think about whether I read the next book in the series, because part of me is like, well, if it's going to be as terrible as the second one, then I don't want to have anything to do with it. I don't want to waste my time on it. But part of me is like, well, what if she's gone back to her original way of writing, because that was so much better and much more enjoyable. So I haven't really made my mind up on that at the moment. I'm going to have to kind of see how it goes. But yeah, not good. And then I've got another book here that I finished from Non-Fiction November, and it is Love as Always Mum, and this is Mae West with Neil McKay. I put this on my TBR, so those of you that saw my Non-Fiction November TBR will have seen me talking about this. This is basically written with the help of Neil McKay, Fred and Rose West's daughter. For those of you that don't live in the UK, Fred and Rose West are amongst the most notorious serial killers to have kind of existed in the UK. Rose West is in prison, I think in Kent, and she will never get out of prison. Fred West should have been convicted, but he killed himself whilst kind of awaiting trial, so he was never convicted. But they sexually abused lots of young women, including their own children, killed lots of those young women, and buried them in the back garden of their house, in the basement, and underneath the kitchen floor in their house. And this is basically from one of their children's perspective, and it's talking about the experience of growing up in that kind of family and exactly what went on from her point of view, and what she found out later, how she's coped with what's happened as an adult and trying to move on from it and things like that. If you're into true crime, I would definitely recommend this. It was really easy reading. It wasn't the most well written thing in the world, but then I don't suppose that you would expect it to be that well written. There were a few errors in here and things like that, but then you know, not particularly a great style, but at the same time really compelling. I didn't think it needed a great style in order for this to be readable. Lots of different things in here that were really interesting. I found it, there were a couple of evenings where I was reading this just before I went to bed, and then was questioning why I had done that. I mean, I got to sleep pretty quickly. There's nothing, I think because it's real and it's in the past, I don't know, maybe that's a reason for me to actually have nightmares. You know, because if it wasn't real, I could justify in my head, well, it's not real. So, but yeah, for some reason I thought, oh well, it's in the real. It's not. It is real. But it's in the past. You know, she's in prison for it. He's dead. You know. But I did. Yeah. If you're a bit sort of like, if you get nightmares quite easy, I wouldn't read this before you went to bed. But I would read it if you are interested in true crime. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. And it's not particularly long. It's about 300 pages, and it won't take you long to read either. A few days maybe, something along those lines. I think I ended up giving that 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. And then the last book that I finished was another audiobook I downloaded from my library, called The Red Ribbon by Lucy Adlington. And I don't know where I got this recommendation from, but I seem to remember listening to somebody on BookTube, or maybe reading some sort of article, and then I decided, okay, so I looked for this book and I found it on my library's audiobook app. And this is basically a YA book about the Holocaust. So it follows a character called Ella. Ella is at Birkenau, Auschwitz, and she, at the beginning of the book, is given the opportunity. Oh, I'm flashing again, hold on a second. So at the beginning of the book, she's given the opportunity to work in the sort of dress shop in Birkenau, and sort of like doing sewing repairs and making dresses for the officers' wives and things like that. And she really wants to be a dressmaker when she's older. So, you know, she's trying to grab this opportunity with both hands and, you know, not have to go and do a job that's kind of much worse out there. So she gets this job, she gets the opportunity to work in this sewing room. She makes friends with a girl called Rose, who is a really big storyteller, and they become very good friends. And it's about her experience at the death camps, and about kind of like, it's set in 1944 and 45, so it's talking about the end of the war and being liberated and things like that. I'm sure we all know about, you know, the really popular Holocaust stories for children, like, you know, The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas and things like that. This one I certainly hadn't heard of before, and I think it's definitely one that we should put in the hands of a lot more children. Told from a girl's point of view rather than a boy's point of view, so that could be good for kind of like, you know, appealing to a range of different younger readers. It was both harrowing and uplifting at the same time. A really, I hesitate to use, I want to use the word lovely, a lovely story, but at the same time it wasn't lovely. Like I said, I listened to it on audio. I thought it was quite a good audiobook as well. Yeah, really good, really into it. And I ended up giving that one I think I gave it 5 stars actually. Yeah, I think I did. So there we go. Okay, and then to give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm going to be reading kind of in the next week or so. So the audiobook that I'm currently listening to is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Kathryn. This is about her experience as a mortician she lives in San Francisco, I think. I've listened to the first hour of it. It's quite confronting. So she talks about exactly, like, the first couple of chapters are about the process of cremating a body and that sort of thing. So if you're not really a big fan of that kind of thing, then this might not be for you, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It's quite a short audiobook. It's just under 8 hours, I think. So like I said, I've listened to the first hour of that and I'm really enjoying it. So obviously listen to a bit more of that as the week goes on. And then the current physical book that I'm reading at the moment is Map of the Heart. It's a bit shiny because it's the library book. Map of the Heart by Susan Wiggs. This is a book that Sarah from Steeped in Books has recommended on her channel very recently, and I picked up a copy from my library. This, I believe, is a bit of a mix between historical fiction and romance. So I believe it switches between timelines. At the moment, I've only read the first few pages. We're following what looks like somebody who develops old film from old photographs. I don't know, presumably she's going to uncover something. So it says on the back, an accomplished photographer and mother, widowed Camille Palmer is content with the blessings she's enjoyed. When a raging father asks her to go with him to his native France, she's no idea that she's embarking on an adventure that will utterly transform her. So Sarah absolutely raved about this book, so I'm really looking forward to reading it for myself and seeing if I enjoy it. So yeah, that's the other book that I'm going to be working on this week. I've kind of narrowed the focus when it comes to the amount of books that I'm reading, so I might pick up a book on my Kindle, but to be honest, I was thinking the other day that I don't often pick up more than one book at once at the moment. I did do that a lot at the beginning of the year and last year. Like the end of this year, not so much. So yeah, I might just work. My audiobook I listen to in the car, and I listen to a little bit while I'm doing some crochet and things like that. But print book wise, or you know, physical book wise, just one is working for me at the moment. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be reading in the next week. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. If you wondered where I was, or you asked me where I was, I got a lovely message from Kathryn from Rather Be Reading this morning actually, saying that she'd missed my face and, you know, asking how I was and things like that. So thanks very much, Kathryn. Yeah, I'm going to hopefully get back into the swing of filming again. I want to, like I said, I want to try out these weekend reads videos. I can't always do it on a Friday evening just because sometimes I get home late, and you know, I'm tired. I'm literally exhausted on a Friday night, so it doesn't always work for me. But Saturday reads or weekend reads is always good, and then obviously pepper that with other videos in between. I start thinking about my TBR for the holiday book bingo. I'll leave a link to my announcement video down below just in case you didn't catch that, but that would have been one of the last videos on my channel from a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, so I think that's it, guys. So I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments below. What are you reading at the moment that you're really enthused by? Have you read anything lately that you weren't at all enthused by or impressed by, as the case was with The Perfect Match by Kristen Higgins? But there we go. Yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.